communities don't have the courage to voice out. We regard ourselves as the voice of the people, and talking about taboos, we're going to be having an open conversation around a whole lot of issues that are faced by a whole lot of people. Could be within the spheres of relationships. It could be our take around the economy, finances, or whatever the case may be. So we're going to be having an incredible open talk with my incredible guest, whom I'm just going to bring into the conversation for him to introduce himself. And straight after that, yeah, we'll take it from there. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Bro Seth. How's it?
How are you?
Hey, I'm awesome, man. Apart from the fact that the internet was trying to show me flames, I'm 100% fine. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, and I'm very well. I'm tops. I'm tops. I can't complain about a single thing.
Hey,
so,
thanks for being here, by the way.
Yep. So just tell the listeners who you are, where you're from, and then domain.
Oh, that's a very difficult question. The who are you question is a question I try and avoid because it's not easy to answer. But the best way I try to answer it is by giving what I want people to know about me. So first things first, I love to describe myself as this. I am this guy. And this is not by no means I'm trying to swear at you. I'm not doing that. I am the only son amongst 4 ladies. So I've got 2 older sisters, myself, and 2 younger sisters.
All right.
And I'm the only boy. And I come from a pastoral family. My father is a bishop. He is a founder of the church by the name of the Worshippers in Jesus Ministries. We have more than 47 branches across South Africa. And I come from, a lot of who I am today is shaped by my father. I learn a lot from my father. So on a personal basis, I am a public speaker, a professional public speaker. I'm enrolled with the international organization by the name of Toastmasters. And I am the current holding champion of the Area A2 International Speech Contest at Toastmasters. And I've got my own YouTube channel by the name of The Miracle Perspective, where we talk about mind-boggling questions, and we're a thought-leading organization. So I am currently doing my master's in environmental management. I also am an entrepreneur, and I'd like to believe that I'm a man of my own decision in conclusion. So that is who I am.
Okay, we seem to be having a little bit of a distort with your line here and there. You keep breaking, but I think we can be able to drive a conversation, and if it gives us trouble, we'll try to resort to yet another medium. I've noticed that throughout the work that you do within your as you stated, the Miracle Perspective, you handle a lot of critical conversations that a lot of people are not comfortable in talking about. We see a lot of people asking you very interesting, at times difficult questions that if we start normalizing within the family front to have such kind of conversations, we can help alleviate a lot of harm, which could be leading to gender-based violence, amongst other things, or suicide, depression, and the works. Now, let's start a conversation around your perspective around relationships in our modern day. I've seen in one of your conversations, there was a lady that posted a question to you, who has a thing or only finds herself attracted to married men and nothing else but married men. And in that particular conversation, you addressed to that. Some of those was unearthing the issues around the daddy issues that she could be having and all of that. Let's just have a conversation around that. What would you say you have taken out of that conversation, and what would you like to share with the listeners from that conversation that took place on that day?
All right. Before I get to that question, can you help me? I see the comment section and it's quite destructive, and some people are saying they can't see my face. How do I remove the comment section on my side?
It's gone.
I can still see it. What do I do on my side to close it?
Slide it out.
Oh, nice. Okay. So the issue of the relationships and the question you asked in relation to the work I do on my channel. I've got what I call the TMP Q&A Wednesdays. For those who don't know what you're talking about, I've got a TMP Q&A Wednesdays where I'm open to getting any questions from anyone, and we get other people to help my own perspective at the end. And the point is not to give advice. I always remind people, the point is to just give my perspective and the psychology of why I think things are happening. And in that particular case or story that you're talking about, of the lady who always falls for married men, and in regards to relationships in general, I think we are revolving around one issue when it comes to relationship. Because the question that's coming tomorrow, it was a guy who asked, we see a lot of divorce rates. There's a boom in the number of divorces happening. What is the cause? And what do we do as the younger generation to prevent that from happening and saving ourselves? I think the major problem when it comes to relationship is people are scared of confronting themselves. People are scared of pursuing self-discovery. Here's an example, Seth. When did you start dating? All right, like this goes to everybody who's listening. When did they start dating? How old were they when they started this relationship game? You'd find that many people, it was around 13, 14, in high school, teenagehood, where you didn't even know your name. You didn't know if you're alive or not. But now you're in a relationship, you're in a partnership with a person. And your idea of relationship is what you see from the 1-hour videos of the Hollywood videos, happy ever after, and that's what forms your perception of relationships. And you forget that in that 1-hour clip that you are watching, those people that are showing you this happy ever after life, in their own personal lives, it's not working out. It ends in tears. And after your first relationship when you were 13, you break up and your heart is broken, but you can't be lonely because you've never confronted yourself. You don't know who you are. You go into the next relationship in trying to cover up for that. Before you know it, you are age 30 and you have a series of relationships on your neck. You have never met yourself. And now you must fall into marriage. Who are you going to the marriage as? Who are you as you're going to this marriage? And you find that the other partner as well doesn't know themselves as well. So you find people who don't know who they are and they want to make things work. It's not going to work because the fundamental issue of self-identity is being neglected. So what I've learned and what I continue to see with the questions that I usually deal with is the element of self-identity. People do not confront who they are. They don't know who they are.
Interesting. I'm also inclined to tying this conversation with what we see happening in the country so far, where particularly gender-based violence is concerned, because also part of the factors that leads to such kind of an ill behavior is believed to be some of the unattended to and unresolved childhood traumas, and even as you also allude on as well to say, people do not confront certain things about themselves and want to delve into certain other parts where life and all of that is concerned. What is your take on some of these atrocious events that keep on happening, where we see men killing women, beating women, and one of the most shocking events was a woman who was shot dead in a police station on her way to report gender-based violence that takes place in the home space. We see a lot of people getting caught up in very tricky relationships, and when you love, and that is the unfortunately some kind of a holding point for people to not go out or even speak out. What is your comment around all of that?
First of all, I think it's very important to dismantle the idea of gender-based violence as something that means men abusing women. Most times when we say gender-based violence, the mind or the perception that people get out of that is men abusing women. And I'm going to be a bit out of political correctness in this way.
Yeah.
I know the issue is that women are being abused. But unfortunately, the stats and studies show that there are more men who suffer abuse from women than women. However, we only see the effect of women being abused by men because when men now take a reaction, it leaves a damage. Because men are generally stronger, and when they punch, you will see the face will show that this person was punched. But a woman, it shows that about 80%, this is a study done in US, which shows that 80% of men are being abused in America, but it's just that you don't see it because it's not the same level of intensity. So what we see today and what is out there is the intensity of men abusing women, and which is quite unfortunate. I'm not taking away anything from that. It's very important and it needs to be addressed, but it's a two-way street. For as long as we are not treating gender-based violence as a two-way street, men abusing women and women abusing men, men will always be frustrated because they have nowhere to go. They can't talk about this. Nobody's willing to listen to them. You see, I mean, gender-based violence is, I think it's tough because we forget the element of dealing with an issue as an issue, but wanting to make it a gender politics issue, gender identity issue. I don't know if you get where I'm going with this, but
I'm also wondering where you go with this.
where I'm going with this is that for us to get to a point where we can solve issues, we need to be willing to sit down and say, men, what is your frustration? Because we see men who are frustrated. That's the issue. Men are frustrated. For a man to go to a police station and forget about police, forget about being arrested, forget about the possibility of death, and just shoot, something has to be wrong in his mind.
I think that's a subjective perspective. It's broad in a sense that it is debatable. A lot is left to be desired from such a perspective in saying that men are frustrated. Yes, they can be. Women are also frustrated. Yes, they can be. But I think the crux of the issue is now onto we can't compensate someone else's inability to confront their own demons in a way that seems or comes across as though we are perpetuating for an ill behavior or conduct because you are traumatized. And I think the conversation that we need to have and steer it to a direction of self-help of some sort is wherein we encourage people to see to it with themselves, upon themselves, to seek help. Look, for example, I'm gonna be very personal right now. I'm currently undergoing psychotherapy, not because there's anything major happening or going wrong in my life. I'm undergoing it so as to recap on some of the moments when I had a breakdown, so as to ensure that I do not have a reoccurrence of some kind of emotional breakdown. And I was having a conversation with my sister Mabon yesterday to say that the thing with us most Black people is that when we are emotionally and otherwise broken, we just want to wing it. We just want to go on and pretend like nothing is going on. We don't attend to our wounds, and then we see some of these outbursts happening within a relationship setting or within friendship settings or familial settings, because it comes out as an outburst. So yes, it is not perpetuating ill behaviors at the same time, but also we cannot shy away from people not taking personal responsibility when it comes to self-auditing and self-reflections.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with that. And that is why I'm saying it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
Both men have to take that journey to refixing and rediscovering and actually working on themselves. Taking the journey that you are taking. You're an example of the men we are talking about. You have taken a journey to fixing yourself, to just go back and unlearn some of the things that you might have learned, and just to find yourself and get in tune with yourself. I think that is a practice that both men and women should take on, because for as long as we are trying to deal with this issue from a biased approach, it's not going to be solved, unfortunately. It's always going to be a cycle. We have been talking about gender-based violence for the past how many years now, and it's not getting better. What is the issue? Are we not running away from fixing the core issue? I mean, the biggest problem is the lack of fathers in our households. The lack of fathers is causing people don't have male role models to look up to. People don't know what manhood is about. Women don't know what to expect from a man because they come from families where they didn't have a father. They didn't see the role of a father in their homes. So they don't know what to expect from the next guy who promises them marriage. A man doesn't know how to be a man because they have never experienced the role of a father in their lives. So the only thing they know is a one-sided view, which is, I only have a mother, I was raised by my.
Okay. So right about now, we're just going to take a quick detour and get a quick update on some of the news headlines. We'll carry on the conversation in just a minute. Just going to get take a quick detour and get news headlines, and straight after that, we'll continue the conversation.
Cool stuff.
Live and direct from TUT Soshanguve Campus Studios, this is TUT FM News.
In your headlines at 8:30. A Swiss court dismisses Semenya's testosterone ruling appeal. Thuli Madonsela weighs on a controversial Clicks image. And Clicks wins interdict against the economic freedom fighters. Good evening, and I will be seeing you again tomorrow from 7 to 9 p.m. on the network with Kgopotso Seth Chawane. Have a blessed night further.
Thank you, guys. So with those amazing headlines there, I'm looking forward to having some more riveting conversations and, getting updates around what is happening in the world from tomorrow and all of that.
Very much interesting indeed. I'm looking forward to it. Our earlier speaker that we spoke to spoke about Thuli Madonsela and her controversial statements on Twitter. But the most interesting one is this Swiss court ruling on Semenya's testosterone ruling. So it's a bit sad that we're still on that note. Really, I thought by now we would have sorted that out. But very interestingly, the interdict on the EFF. Tomorrow we'll
go into detail with it.
And we'll.
All right. For now, let's come into this part of the conversation where we have the miracle perspective on the line right there to continue the conversation around what his views and takes is on gender-based violence. So before we went to the news headlines, you were touching on about the kind of voids that a lot of people experience at any stage in their childhood. It could be the absence of a father that can contribute to and from. I mean, I talk as one who was brought up by a single mother. So I know all there is to know around what such a void can cause to a person. But also, I'm still of the view that each and every individual has an innate responsibility as to the kind of person they want to be outside what could have happened to them. And you and I normally would talk, and I'll share with you the story about how when I was 7, 8, 9, 10, I suffered molestation, and we know that certain other traits around that is the fact that if somebody has been raped at a particular age in their life, or somebody has had some kind of a traumatic experience, or whatever the case may be, they are most likely to grow up and reproduce it going forward. But also, there is another side to it. With or without help, you still have a decision to make when it comes to the kind of person that you want to be, the kind of behavior you want to portray, and all of that. So I think that the conversation around certain voids, childhood traumas, and I think for me, as a person that has those kind of similar traumas, has been used for the longest of time as a facade to perpetuate ill behaviors. That's my thinking.
You're right, and I get where you're going. You are more on the, okay, fine, we have this, so what? That's where you are, and that's true. That's what needs to happen. But I think before we go to the finding of solutions, so what? The so what element. It's important to not run away from the facts and what the causes to the issue are. And I mean, Obama once said that a child growing up from a family without a father is 5 times more likely to drop out from school, 9 times more likely to end up in prison, and 20 times more likely to end up in poverty. So it shows how intense a broken family structure can break people. And you can see today, man. Braseth, look at this. These are facts. When you look at the ratio of men who are in prison compared to women, can you even compare? You can't compare. You've got a lot of men in prison today. You've got a lot of men who are committing crime. You've got a lot of men who are doing a lot of stuff. Fine, I get it. It's our responsibilities to say that I didn't have this, I was handicapped in this way, and this and this and this, and now I need to fix myself. 100%. But going forward, how is this relevant? This information is relevant for those younger ones who might not even know about this, to show that if you are going to live your life in a reckless manner, where you are not going to be a responsible father when you have to be a responsible father, this is the type of behavior you're perpetuating. So I am mentioning this so vehemently to teach some of those people out there who might not know the intensity of what this can cause to a human being. That void that you're talking about, you can close it by saying, yes, I didn't have this, I didn't have that. But between who I am today and who I want to be, what am I choosing? And the answer, the most rational answer to choose, is who you can be and who you want to be. And in doing so, there are certain things that you have to sacrifice today. There are certain sacrifices you have to make today. There are certain traumas you have to confront today. There's a lot of pain you have to confront today for the sake of you being better tomorrow. My father comes from a family where he was rejected by his own father. For the longest time, his father told him that is not his son. And because he was darker than him, he thought his grandmother did funny stuff, so he rejected him. But my father is the best father I've ever seen on earth today, because he did what you are doing today. He took it upon himself to say, yes, indeed, I didn't have a good father, but I want to be a great father. And he put himself under immense type of sacrifice and under a lot of pressure in dealing with his traumas and pain. And that is where we need to go. Everybody needs to deal with their pain and traumas. It's going to be tough, but you just need to take it up and say, I know it's a suffering, but I am going to stack it up and move on and find a better me for tomorrow, not for today.
Okay. Now, I want us to tie this conversation with the role that the education system as well as the religious system can play in curbing some of the social ills. It could be around gender-based violence. It could be any kind of social ills. It could be issues around how the view towards a girl child versus a boy child is in a current day. Because I've noticed there are several movements out there that bring about a gender divide, wherein boys are taught to look at girls in a more sympathetic and a more compassionate way, whereas somehow the ill teaching on the other side could be that girls look at boys as rivals, as competition that they need to, outshine, outbeat, or outrun, whatever the case may be. You can look at it in how some of the family-based kind of conversations that are being had. On the other side, girls are treated differently from boys. Now, my sister, who is a year or two older than me, would not be allowed to stay outside until 5 p.m. and I would be led to go out until 10 p.m. So you can already see that there is a gender divide already that is happening. There is a difference that the boy child and the girl child will grow up under. How, therefore, do you see it important for both the education system, the religious system, which can be applied within a family setting, can be used in a more pragmatic and effective way to try and alleviate and curb some of the social ills that we are currently dealing with as manifestations or outbursts?
It's a tough question, man.
I know, right?
Because
I'm that guy. That's my name.
Because
go on.
what you are saying, man, what makes it tough is that what you are saying, the indoctrination you're talking about, has to fundamentally, of the foundational element of it is in the family. Those principles are supposed to be taught in the family, not in church, not in school. So taking it like school and church is just a secondary element. The primary and most important element is the family, the household. But fine, how does the church and school come together in trying to help solve this? unfortunately, man, when it comes to church, yes,
I heard absolutely nothing there. I heard, unfortunately, within the church. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Go on.
Unfortunately, in the church is almost tied to talk about all things as what school can talk about. And what I mean is, for example, the church cannot openly say teach about what is this, sexual behavior or sexual wellness between unmarried people, but that is applicable to be taught in school. And the reason why that cannot be taught in church, because the Bible says abstain from sex. Sex before marriage is a sin. So that ties them up. They can't go beyond that. If they go beyond that and try to teach sex education in church, from which verse are they picking that? And who gives them the ability to do that? So it's tough. But at school, education also is very difficult, because you've got who designed the system to start with, and what is the system aiming to teach? What is the fundamental subject that the system is trying to teach? So it's complicated, man, because there's a lot of things involved. And I mean, you can't say, for example, me, I'm a Chawane, I'm Tsonga. I meet with a Seth, who maybe, for example, Seth is Pedi. His cultural beliefs and my cultural beliefs, somehow, somewhere, they will have some conflicting, somehow, some way. Which cultural belief do we take, and what do we teach who in that type of setup? But what I can say in terms of the gender disparities, as you mentioned, is that indeed there is a lot of gender disparity, and the way a boy child is treated is very different from a girl child. But my question to you is, in terms of the household dynamics, if a girl child is pregnant, and when a boy child impregnates someone in the household, what changes? How does the family dynamics change when you have a daughter who's pregnant and when you have a son who impregnated someone? Does it even show that a son has impregnated someone? Does it show?
You know, in my observations and experience around that, fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know, whichever one, I'm the last one of four, and I've got two sisters older than me, and both of them at the age of 16, they had their first children, right? And the response within the family was more of disappointment. But when my brother had kids, it was more of an excitement, in a way that there's an extension of membership within the family and all of that. And these are some of the dynamics and some of the imbalances that I'm trying to also address, to say there is a way that we need to start re-looking at how we approach gender within the family setting. So if we're going to be preaching equality externally, we need to also be able to chant it and practice it internally. If we're going to preach in inequality internally, it's the same conversation we need to be extending externally. But my point is, whatever method that we use to do whatever when it comes to gender divides, we need to be consistent about it throughout. So there's a question that my co-host wants to bring to your attention before you respond to that or comment onto that.
You know, Seth, there's something that I find it very much interesting, especially basing this on what Mahlori is actually bringing on the fore. And I'd love to believe that perhaps what is more important is to try and address the issue of looking at gender before we are all humans. You know, and I think that's where it needs to start. Yeah, it needs to start there, because automatically we talk about women being fragile and men being violent, and now he brings about another point, and he has stats to prove it, that men are highly abused as well, and the stats are not there. But then, looking at this as well, we are pushing a certain agenda, or a certain narrative has been pushed about, let's empower a girl child. And then in that process, as you do that, then what happens to the boy child? Right? Now, a boy child is left behind, and then how does that boy child then behave in order to actually bridge the gap? So I think what you are bringing up there in terms of really addressing these gender disparities, perhaps we need to basically then start looking at it from there, that why don't we see each other as human beings first, and then gender comes second. So if I see you as a human being before you are a female, then I would respect you as a human being first before then the gender aspect comes into play.
So it is the humanity aspect part before the gender.
Exactly. So how can we deal with it? Because I think that is where we need to start before.
I think that's the direction the conversation needs to go. I see you already amped up and all that, ready to comment. You can go on.
No, I was agreeing with what your colleague was saying there. In this sense, I wanted to say we need to define equality before we go anywhere, because we're trying to find something that I don't think we all understand. Because to me, the way things are being done right now, currently, the equality we're trying to pursue is where we are oppressing men and empowering women. So it's about 100% women, 0% men. But what is it? What is equality? Are we, because now, here's the thing. With what I'm saying right now, a lot of feminists will bash me for what I'm saying because they say I neglect the issue that men are abusing women, men are killing women, and what I'm trying to code it. But the fact is, if we are going to try and pursue equality, we need to be ready to say, all right, equality means we're giving you as a woman the equal chance that we're going to give the man. But right now, with the equality that's happening, we've got women who are getting all the opportunities and the men are being sidelined. Are we fighting for equality, or are we fighting for payback? Because that's what it seems like. For me, it's payback. Payback, we oppress you in the meantime while we get the others in shoe.
A lot of women don't like you right now. But here's my other thing. I hear what you guys both saying, and you make sense. Because my other thing that I have a qualm with is around how we're going around the whole mitigating of the already damage that is happening within families, within societies, and even in the workspace. For example, there are movements with good intentions, but the manner in which they are being displayed or portrayed, for me, I would normally have issues with that. For example, I understand and I support 100% the feminist movements such as the Me Too movement and some power movements and the likes. Yes, thank you for that. And I understand the intention behind and the motives behind the hashtag men are trash movements. Now, that's the problem. Herein lies the problem that I have, in that we are seeing a problem within the societies, within communities, and we want to alleviate it. We want to address it. And we now go around labeling men as trash. That already psychologically creates a particular mental picture that it is negative between a male counterpart versus the woman or on its own, before we even start alluding as to what the objectives behind the movement is. Because now we have labeled men and dehumanized them. Now, how then do we now bring 100%. Men into the conversation to try and be party to a conversation that has to come up with a solution to a conversation or a problem that is already occurring, wherein we've already labeled them otherwise? So, and I'm saying that because at some point I was having a conversation with women around this particular subject, and my thing was, I want to be part of any movement that fights against gender-based violence, particularly where men are the more active parties to such a misconduct. But my issue is, when I go into the field, who do I fight as? What am I being viewed as? Am I being viewed as a man or a trash?
Good question. Good question. And
but anyway,
that's a very interesting.
Yeah, maybe in the interest of time, just give us your, because load shedding will happen any second. Just give us your closing remarks. We'll have a sequel once everything, the dust settles. We'll have a sequel in studio, so we can have a full-blown conversation around that, where your network will also not be against us. Maybe just give us your closing remarks on that, and we'll revisit this conversation. I think a lot is left. Perhaps we can also even organize women to also be part of this conversation, so we can have a women perspective as well.
100%. Thank you for this opportunity. My closing remarks on this, I would say, I would go back to what you said. Personal responsibility is the ultimate key, because if you are taking personal responsibility, you will seek to understand yourself first without comparing yourself to anybody. You will seek to confront your own iniquities, your own weaknesses, your own hurts, your own pains, your own frustrations. And at the end of the day, whatever you do, you'll be willing to take responsibility of the action that you take. You won't be blaming it on the fact that you are black, you are a man, you are a woman, you are a wife, you are a husband, you are a child. You will be ultimately taking the responsibility to fix whatever that happens around your life. And ultimate responsibility is what makes you, you. Personal responsibility makes you who you are. So that is my words today, to say that we can fight man against woman, but at the end of the day, it's you against you. Who are you? And are you willing to take everything that has to do with you? That is me. Find me on my YouTube channel, The Miracle Perspective. We talk about sex stuff, and every Wednesday we do the Q&A Wednesday. Tomorrow we're dealing with why there's so many marriages in the world today. So catch me there and subscribe while you are there.
Awesome stuff, man. Thank you so much. We'll have a sequel. Definitely we'll have a sequel at this conversation. I think it's one of the most important conversations that we need. And the beautiful part about this kind of conversations is that every opinion, every thought is valid, because we are all seeking solution to one problem. So any diverse opinions and thinkings around this is very important, which is why I believe we need to start normalizing having these difficult and uncomfortable conversations. I know some of the women who are listening out there, they think, these guys are not representing a lot of women. But I think we need to also capacitate ourselves to move from our emotional minds to our, to our conscious minds, where we are able to have intellectual conversations which have a bearing to our emotional state, but use our intellectual cognitive abilities to come up with solutions to our emotional mind, or whatever our emotional mind can limit us to. But anyway, thank you so much, man. We'll have a sequel on this very soon. Best believe.
Before you go, I think you said we are all fighting for the same solution. Oh, before I go, you said you are sure that we are fighting for the same solution. I think the next time we start this, we need to really evaluate if we are all fighting for the same solution, because I don't think we are all fighting for the same solution.
Okay.
First, we need to define what is the solution, and we can get somewhere from there.
All right. Done. Thank you so much, man. Have yourself a good evening.
Thank you. You too.
We've spoken at length.